So not only do we have our credo and our coat of arms, which talks about our purpose, intergenerational wealth, which I'll explain in a moment, is the reason we exist. Has anyone here ever heard of it or read a book called Good to Great? Okay, good. It's business tome, right? So one of the things he talks about in Good to Great is every business needs to have a hedgehog concept. So a hedgehog is an animal that is the world's best at doing one thing and the one thing alone, and that's rolling up in a ball to protect itself. No other animal does it. So Adam and I decided, well, what's going to be our hedgehog concept? Are we going to be the best, the world's best standard-setting real estate development company on earth? It's going to be hard to do. There are companies in England that have been doing this for hundreds of years, right? I don't think we can be the gold standard. We could get as good as them, but never be the best. So we decided it's sort of like karate masters. You know, they don't aim, when they're punching through boards, they don't aim at the front board or the middle board. They aim way past the last board. Or if you're going to punch some guy in the face, you don't aim at his nose. You aim way at the back of the head. Use that later if you want. And so we decided we were going to punch past the board and have our purpose be to create intergenerational wealth for families. Now, this logo here is our foundation. This is the interesting bit that ties it all together. When I think about League and who we are today, have you ever seen one of those fancy, magazines, and there's those fancy, expensive men's watches where you can see right through to the beautiful golden gears all turning together? That's how I feel about our company and transparency. I want everybody to know how it works, because the thing that drives me bananas is people say, oh, it's too good to be true. Everything's supposed to be this good. Everything's not good enough by comparison, but everybody's been worn down so much, screwed over, lied to, that, oh, it's too good to be true if it's actually something that's good. So showing people your transparency and putting it, how you put it in action is so, so important. So here's what we did. So we give value in advance. We have our League Integrity Guarantee, where we take no ownership or cash flow up front, so we have to earn our share in order to get our share of a profit. And then we also created a foundation. And how many have heard of something called 1% for Humanity? This is where large companies like GE, Starbucks, I think is one of them, they donate 1% of their bottom line to philanthropic efforts every year. We decided we'd do 5% from the beginning, so you really pay attention to it if it's something that kind of hurts a little bit, especially when you're starting out in your smaller company. And besides the foundation itself, which is interesting the way we set that up, so that families could use our foundation rather than having to spend the money and the expense on the lawyers and everything else to keep their own going, they can use ours for free, and we'll direct their donations to whoever they want, and not a cent comes off it because we do that for free. That's our donation back to them. But the other thing that we did was created a profit-sharing program. So as our employees are sitting at their desks trying to figure out how they're going to make League more profitable, and the investments more profitable, right? So if we can have our expenses lower, we'll actually be able to last longer waiting for these profits to come out and treat our employees well. And also the more profitable our investments are, the more of our 20% of the income or the increase we'll get later. So while they're doing that, and we are literally looking at things like how many clicks on the photocopier, those contests and all that kind of thing, between the 5% for Humanity and the fact that our whole company is tied together in a circle with the profit sharing, while they're sitting at their desks just making us more profitable, there's more money to be made to go out into the philanthropic world. So while they're sitting at their desk, we're sending someone else to Africa. We're sending someone else to the Dominican Republic. We're sending someone else to these places to do good. So while they're sitting at their desk, they're doing good. You see how it all ties together? Does that make sense? I hope I did a good enough job to explain that. So just the boring part here, our product, our mission. So we provide institutional grade investments for families. So normally, if you were going to buy a mall or build a city, which we're doing, you'd either be a banker, some super mega hyper rich dude, or a pension fund or something like that. And what we've done is democratized it so individuals can literally own as small or as large a piece of a property or a group of properties as they want. So for instance, if you're a person who's a real estate investor of some sort yourself, instead of having someone renting out your basement and having a tenant in your basement paying you rent, you can literally have Walmart or the banks paying you rent. We have a little commercial in Canada. It's kind of funny. There's these guys in suits walking around with their hands in other people's pockets, and it's bankers, with their hands in your pockets. Well, we got our hands in their pockets because they all pay us rent, and it flows back through to our member partners. So we provide proportional ownership in tangible real estate and sustainable energy projects. We also have Canada's largest functioning array of solar energy panels in Ontario. We provide an attractive total return on investment, cash flow, growth of capital, or both, and that's integral to intergenerational wealth, and I'll talk about that in a second. It's very tax efficient, because obviously it's not about investments, it's not what you make, it's what you get to keep. Obviously it's important. And it's low volatility because we're not traded on the stock market. We do have public funds as well, but most of ours are private. and as little as $1,000. We literally have people who have as little as $1,000 and as much as $16 million with us. And we've never asked anybody how much money they have or how much money they want to invest. It's not our business. We let them decide, put their toe in the water, and when they're comfortable, come back for more if they want to. So we do all that stuff. We're this 1.35, I think now, $billion real estate development company. We're actually building an entire city right now on Vancouver Island. But what is our business really? Intergenerational wealth. It's so important that we trademark the term. If you do a Google search right now for the terms intergenerational wealth, you'll always see one other word behind it, and that's transfer. All the investment brokers and financial advisors right now are talking about the big intergenerational wealth transfer that's occurring as the baby boomers are preparing to leave the planet and leave their assets to the next generation. And what they're talking about is how they're going to get a piece of it in their commissions as it goes from one generation to the next. That's not our concept of intergenerational wealth at all. Has anyone here read the books, I forget his last name, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Anyone? Okay. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad is an interesting book about a fellow who's basically raised by two dads. His own dad was the poor dad. He was a university professor, made a decent income, but was never really rich. And his friend's dad was his second dad, and he's the rich dad. This guy never finished high school, but he was a multimillionaire. And he had some key principles. The first one is that rich people are rich because they buy assets, and poor people are poor because they buy liabilities. And so by his definition, an asset is anything that puts money into your pocket on a regular basis, and a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket on a regular basis. So for instance, if you own a boat and you're not a commercial fisherman, that's a liability. Or if you own a house, this is an interesting one. Is your house an asset or liability? Anybody know? 10 minutes already? Oh, damn, kind of hurry. Well, if you've got your house rented out and it's cash flowing, it's an asset for you. If not, and you're just making mortgage payments, it's an asset for the bank and a liability for you. So what we do in our company is create assets, income-producing assets, so that as you buy more of these, and it'll be different for everybody's family, depending on where they start from, you will hopefully have this passive income coming from assets that you purchase to replace the income that comes from your work. So rather than trading dollars, or time for dollars, you'll have more and more of these assets until hopefully one day the key is to have enough income coming in from the assets that you own that you don't have to work for anymore, that it pays for your lifestyle expenses. So imagine for a moment not having to work at a job you wouldn't otherwise, just to put food on the table. I'm not saying people shouldn't work. I think everybody should work, but at a job you love, like some of you, I hope, rather than a job that you have to just to put food on the table. So imagine having all of your basic expenses, so your mortgage, your gas, your food, your fuel, your entertainment, paid for by your investments. And now you could do whatever you wanted. What would you do with that extra time? Would you become a better listener and suddenly become a better husband or wife? Would you spend more time with your family and become a better grandfather or grandmother? Would you become more active in the local community, your parish of your church? Would you go to another country and help someone else increase the quality of their life? That's why we're in business. That's what intergenerational wealth is about. And that's how I'm transforming the world through intergenerational wealth. So this is our symbol. It's you being the father of intergenerational wealth, father or mother of intergenerational wealth for your family, the person that makes that decision that this is the track we're going to go, and start talking about the family's assets in family trust, for instance. So it's you becoming a steward of a storehouse rather than a pilferer of a piggy bank. How would those kinds of conversations change a child? I imagine, I don't have kids yet, please God, one day. I imagine my child sitting on the kitchen floor playing with pots and pans, and mommy and daddy are talking about the family's wealth and the family trust and how they're going to pass it on. How does that affect that child rather than the kinds of conversations that are happening now, or none? Most people don't talk about money in their family. But 1 degree difference, 1 shift over time, and you end up in a completely different place. How do you make your family the Johnson & Johnson family, the Rockefeller family? Right? If we all came from Adam and Eve or Noah after the flood, well, where's my intergenerational wealth? How come we don't all have it? In Japan, they talk about 100-year plans. In North America, the natives there, whenever the tribes get together, or rather the tribe gets together to make an important decision that affects the tribe, one of them is selected to represent the next seven generations of the faces of the unborn. How deep is your planning for your family? So that's why we're in business. Is it working? Well, because of our values and the way that we've done business, which is completely counter to anything else that we've ever seen in the financial industry. We have 1.5, it's actually more than that now, billion in assets under management. more than 30 limited partnerships, a private and a public real estate investment trust. $63 million has been redistributed back to our member partners since we started 6.5, almost 7 years ago. And right now, 3,621 member partners, and that's a key phrase that I'll talk about this afternoon, have joined with us together in league. And we just became Canada's 13th profitable company by doing the right thing, following our hearts. So, how do we deliver it? Member partnership. It's the difference that makes the difference. You're a member with us in a like-minded group. You're a partner with us in these investments. That's a key important part. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. How do we manage all these people now? Using the Rockefeller habits. Some of them I was talking about with someone last night, including having meals daily with your staff and your executives. I make sure I go downstairs and eat in the staff lunchroom every day. I can't tell you the important things that I come up with or problems that I head off just by having conversations with people on the main floor. And evaluating team members. Who's red, who's yellow, who's green, who's super green. Who's, if you look at that, yeah, like that. So who's giving, if you look at the bottom level, just lip service only to your core values. We had a president who did that. He nearly destroyed our company and our culture. Who buys into the core values but falls short under pressure. Who's consistent even at the expense of our short-term gains. And who is consistent even when it personally is detrimental to them. That's the kind of people you want working in your business. So living the values, I'm on time, I can't believe it. What does core values do for you? Why do you need them? Well, first of all, it gives your brand identity. As you've seen from us standing out, the way that we're different, it's a completely different conversation. And what is a business really? It's just a bunch of conversations. It's not the building with the big sign on the front. It's not the computers. It's people having conversations daily about the business called league. That's it. And as long as they're having conversations that are pointed through with purpose, then we're going to drive a little bit clearer towards something more meaningful than just cutting checks and making sure people get paid. Now it's this person needs this because, right? Laser-like hiring and firing. It really forces you to become better. Because I'll tell you right now, you guys are out there fixing culture. Imagine getting it right from the beginning, which we started to, and then we screwed up, and now we're back on the path again. People don't know it, but your interview starts when you come to meet us the moment we pick you up at the airport. So your driver is already part of the interview process. How do they treat the little people? We had one guy who had a CV down to the floor, and he was great as long as he was talking to anybody who was director level and above. But when he was talking to women, we found out later when we flew him in for the second time, we fly people in at least two times, maybe three, and suddenly he wrote off a greeting card that he decided to buy and expense it back to us. You haven't even worked for us yet, dude. Like, come on. Give your head a shake. It makes managing and leading your team a lot easier because there's a clear set of rules. In fact, our salespeople are not called representatives or salespeople. They're called member services managers. You service the members, and you're a manager. That means if someone asks you, can you do this for me, figure it out. Golden rule is right there. You're a manager. Manage it. Don't have to go ask a supervisor to do the right thing. It filters out the small stuff. People now can have a general idea of what needs to be done. If I'm a hunter, for a family hunter, way back in the day, I'm not going to make a single plan to go and catch a deer or whatever it is. As long as I bring it home, who cares how I got it, right? As long as it was, ethically done. So that makes things a little easier. I don't have to deal with all the small stuff anymore. It provides a framework for decision making throughout the entire company. Great story. When we were first starting out, Adam and I are sitting there with this guy. I had no idea, right? Adam's the real estate side of the business. I'm sort of the marketing side of the business, or I was. And there's this fellow there. Adam wants me there to sort of do my spidey senses thing, he says, on him. And so this guy turns to us, we're going to buy a mall off him. And he's like, well, what I'd like to do is I want to hire your company to syndicate my property to your investors. And I was like, I don't understand what he's talking about. And he repeated it again. I want to hire your company to syndicate my property to your investors. And I'm like, isn't that what we're doing right now? He's like, no, you don't understand. I will give you, what did he say? $100,000 or a Porsche each, he owned a Porsche dealership, if my property is one of the ones that you will buy and syndicate to your investors. So I looked at Adam, I was a little confused, I didn't understand what was going on. We went into another room later to kind of look at the contracts and all that. And unbeknownst to me, Adam had asked our assistant to come in and just make up some excuse to get us out of the room. Oh, I'm sorry, we need to sign some papers. So we left. I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And so like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, let's take the $100,000. We'll take it off the purchase price. We announce it to our member partners. We're heroes. We'll start our zero mark lower. He's like, great idea. We go back in there. And he's like, no, I want you to have it. I want you to have it. I'm like, well, I don't know if you understand. We get paid to do this. That's okay. Thank you. But we didn't end up working with him. But after he left, and Adam and I used to share an office, and so our desks are across from each other, and we just stunned silence. I don't know, it felt like 5 minutes, just literally staring at the wall. And then finally, Adam turns to me and he says, the Credo makes it really easy to make a decision, doesn't it? I was like, yeah, it does. And that was the day that I knew that I had the right partner. And your company will perform better. Because culture eats process for breakfast. When systems breaks down, when your computers break down, when there isn't a process there, if people know what their outcome is and they know what the right thing to do is and why they're doing it, they're going to get it done and you're going to be proud of them. And values grease the gears. I talk about, my personal motto is that the lack of trust between any two people is sand in the gears of the economy. If you think about it, the longer it takes for me to trust you and shake your hand and say, we're going to do this, and now we're going to sign the piece of paper, and then we're going to take this piece of paper back to our office and it's going to get processed, and someone in the delivery department is going to do anything. And all of those different interactions, the longer, the more mistrust there is in any of those interactions, it takes everything so much longer to do. That's our small economy within our business and the economies within the world. If we can trust one another sooner by having aligned incentives, a win-win, a positive interdependence, everything just gets done smoother. So values grease the gears. Holy smokes, I think I'm almost on time. So what now? Now it's time for you guys to ask yourself some questions. And here's some of them. If you had total corporate alignment, if you had a clear set of values with just, don't say what we believe, but also what we shall do about our beliefs, or shall not, which is just as important, if not more so, what would you do to create corporate traditions and standards? Yep.
Can I mention one thing?
Sure.
We will make all the presentations available on my CTT, so I've seen people furiously scribbling.
Really? Okay. Good, okay. Yeah. So what would your metrics be? Would you also have some that had to do with values, right? Like giving lip service to the core values rather than, and that kind of thing? How would you measure even at the HR level? Hiring and nurturing leaders. I say culture alignment, CAs versus CVs, right? Because you can hire, someone who has the right heart and train them for talent, but you can't, or for skills, but you can't do the opposite, as you know. Partners and suppliers. Look, we had a really great lawyer, but she was nasty on the phone. And when she was working for us, people thought we were nasty. So she had to go. Doesn't matter how great she was. Partner and client selection. We filter people out. Product, selection, sourcing, and delivering. Pricing. How are you going to price? What's your incentive fee? How do the commissions work? Advertising. When do you do it? Where do you do it? How do you do it? And are there any hurdles to people joining so you make sure that you get the right people so you don't have to fire your client later or spend so much resources dealing with people who just shouldn't be talking to your people on the phone and sucking that life out of them. I've tried to make it in a way that our member services managers, all they do long, I want it to be like Vegas. Just ding, 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 just lights going off and beautiful sounds. Like, I could be here all day long on the phone. I don't want them dealing with jerks. And the distribution channels, who, how much, how often. So, discuss. Is there time or no?
I don't think that we have time. Oh, do we have time? Still? Oh, we do. Great. I thought we were out of time.
So you have 10 minutes to turn to your partner.
Job.
If you want to turn around to, in groups of 4, move the chairs around, that's up to you. But there's some of the little discussion points there. Wherever the one that gives you the most pain, I suggest you start there. Ask a question and see if there's someone else around you who might be able to have some insight for you. Okay? So discuss. Thanks.